Are you tired of the week not going quite as you anticipated? You get to Friday and you realise all those tasks you'd set out for the entire week have gone untouched, and all you've been doing all week has been firefighting. Well, if that's the case, you're really going to enjoy this week's podcast, because we're talking about how to design the perfect week and what sort of help you might need in order to achieve that. We've got Emma Mills, who's talking to us from MiPA, and she specialises in finding VAs and PAs for executives like yourself who are trying to run a business and need a bit of free time so they can then run their perfect week. We're going to look at the strategies you need to implement into your business to make this happen. So let's jump in. Emma Mills, great to have you on the show today. Appreciate you joining us.
I am very happy to be here, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We've been connected for quite a while, haven't we? A few years back, the Dent community, which I think was our
Yeah,
first.
most definitely. Yeah, like Daniel's books and courses. And then I feel like COVID happened and we were all just like in a whirlwind of stuff. And because I don't think I've spoke to you actually properly since 2019.
Been a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, Daniel Priestley, he's a great. He actually spoke at one of our events last year, which was awesome, and
Oh,
he's
wow.
really blown up on social media now. I know he was on the Diary of a CEO podcast the other day, so he's off in
Well,
another league, isn't he?
yeah, I feel like saying at least we knew him before he was famous, didn't he? Do you know, like, so he's like just Dan, you can chat to him, and now he's a celebrity. So,
He really is. Yeah. So Emma, great to have you on. We're talking about the subject today of winning the week, which I think is such a vital subject to talk about, because construction business owners that are listening to this, and any business owner really, I think the reality is that you start your week with good intentions, and then all of a sudden you get to Friday and think, what have I actually achieved? It's been an absolute disaster. So I think talking to yourself and learning the strategies about how we can win the week is going to be really vital. But first of all, maybe we could just have a bit of an introduction on why you're the person we should be speaking to about this. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your business, Emma?
Yeah, of course, Greg. So my potted bio is that I was an executive assistant for 6, 7 years and started my own business providing executive assistance to lots of business owners. And I'm in like a unique spot in that I really enjoyed back in the day being a PA, creating a relationship, understanding the impact that like a really good PA has on somebody's life. Like it's just like a immediate stress relief. And similarly, I also understand how difficult, roller coastery, unbelievable running a business can be. So yeah, I feel like at MiPA we're in a unique position in that we provide virtual assistance, and our staff are trained to understand also the nuances, the very specific mindset, I feel like, that business owners are in. Do you know, it's very unique. No one gets it until you're in it, do they? So ultimately, that's my like quick backstory. And MiPA has been in existence for 16 years, and we do three things. Ultimately, we were founded on exec PA support. This is virtual PA support. Our clients are predominantly in the UK, and we provide them with support on a retainer type basis. We also answer phone calls. So, you know, like that immediate quick win of if all the calls are coming to you, getting them off your plate, getting a team to capture the info, don't waste leads. And we follow up on leads as well. So I guess what I should come up with is a really slick name for more like hybrid business support, because we can pick up operationally in quite a few places. But our heritage is about exec PA support, because that's what I was as well back in the day.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And I know your business has really expanded and grown over the last few years. It's been a challenging few years though, hasn't it, for all businesses? But
Yeah.
I imagine it may have helped you a little bit with virtual VAs and PAs with COVID. How did COVID and remote working change over the last few years? What differences have you noticed
Yeah,
recently?
I mean, massively is perception. So before this podcast, I just had a little look out of interest in that at the end of 2019, there was 10 million daily participants in a Zoom meeting. 4 months later, there was 300 million per day. So like just that in its own, like that perception of I don't need to be sat next to the person that's having an impact in my business. Like it just disappeared overnight, didn't it? Like now we all use Zoom, and I remember the amount of clients who were getting like their PA in our office to be helping them implement setting up Zoom links, meetings. Like nobody, no, it was a new thing, wasn't it? Like, no, it wasn't so prolific. So to answer your question, 100%, because I guess we're at the coalface ultimately. All of our clients, we went through it with them, as they adjusted and we adjusted. But we did grow a lot, and that for me, one big part of it is the perception of virtual working. Like it made people think about, I guess we were in a lot of businesses, we're in a rut, if you like. They did things in a certain way. You employed a member of the team, they sat in your office, and that completely got blown up. And I had so many conversations with people who were like, well, I've realized that X does this, but actually they're not even that interested in it. It's not a full-time job for them. They've just been, sat in a full-time role doing half a job. And I had so many conversations like that where people, I guess, got the breathing space to like analyze their business a bit more. They realized lots of other things were possible rather than just, if you're a business in Chelmsford, rather than just recruiting from the Chelmsford area, you can actually get talent in your business from wherever in the world now, can't you? So I think just like that perception of how you do things, people got so much attention back. There was lots of money being loaned out. And I think it was like this perfect storm of going, I've got time to do things differently with money. So it had a direct impact on our business as well, because before, I feel like there was so much more education on a virtual assistant. Yes, it can work. I know we're not sat at the side, and that kind of just sped up. People like, oh, I get it. I want to try it. I want to use it. I want to implement it. So yeah, gosh, the world has
really,
changed so much.
it really has. And interestingly enough, when people initially enroll on my course, my coaching, one of the first things we're always talking about is getting a virtual assistant and getting
Yeah.
that support just to take off those mundane tasks. So, it's such a crucial part. And we know it's the ones that do implement that
Yeah.
can really make some, massive progress pretty quick. But just focusing in on your business specifically, so we know how other businesses had to adapt to COVID, and we've seen this acceptance of virtual working. How did you get on with your business? Did you, because I know you have got an office, you've got people working in the office. How did you adapt to virtual working, and how did you expand your business in that period?
Yeah, totally. So two key things, I guess. What like in that first month in April, yeah, it was panic stations for everyone, drinking a lot of wine. We had clients pause and cancel like that because people were unsure. And then from, I would say, the middle of May onwards, when I think it became quite apparent, we didn't know how long it was going to last. There was support. Our business got busier and busier and busier. Yeah, it was an absolute like avalanche of inquiries. And yes, okay, perception changed as well, and everything that I've just said, but also from my point of running the business, because we had at that point in time there was 12 of us in the business. There's now 36, so like we've grown a lot over the past few years. But at that point in time, the 12, it was kind of like they looked after the clients that we had. And where I'm going with it is that I had for the first time to work, like to have weeks that were not just busyness, because so much like pulled back in terms of clients that we had, and the team just kind of the ones that were in the office just like carried on with it. I had time to reflect on actually what was the best use of my time. And it was kind of the precursor to me talking about the win the week, because it was a very unusual situation for a lot of us. And don't get me wrong, as the year progressed, I got busier, we all got busier within the office. Interestingly, my business, we are all in Manchester, we're all together, and very much the culture, community, team spirit of MiPA is a really key part of it. We do have people that work with us remotely as well, but like the core of it, the actual like essence, I guess, of the vibe of MiPA is us together in the office in Manchester, which is where I am now. But yeah, like personally for me, it completely flips on its head my realization of working on the right things, planning the week, like understanding that if I work on these really high priority things, the impact it was having, rather than just it was just like a moment in time where I kind of stepped out of reactivity and really got clear on what the needle movers were.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's so important to do, isn't it? Because we can just get wrapped up in just the day-to-day stuff. But
So
I think
much.
that is the phrase, isn't it? The needle movers. What's gonna impact my business? Like, what decisions am I going to make this week or work on that's going to have the biggest impact? So
Yeah.
let's talk about that then. Winning the week, the importance of doing that. Why is winning the week so crucial to, let's say, long-term goals and the long-term vision of a business?
Quite simply, and like everything that I talk about comes from my own experience as well. Like I've had my PA for 16 years. So like any business owner, I've had years recently where we've grown and scaled, but I've had years where I've made plans and I just haven't achieved them. Like at the beginning of the year, you kind of like, right, I want to grow my business by this, I want to do that, and none of it's happened. So I've lived that as well. And very much winning the week, highlighted by the more time that we had in 2020, was about, I used to do this so much. I used to talk about what I wanted to achieve. But if you said to me, Greg, okay, well, let's say, for example, you want to record content that's going to help your audience or that your clients, and then you say, okay, well, when are you going to do that? Back in the years where I didn't achieve, I became hyper aware that it was because this time like wasn't planned in the diary. Like there was nothing there. So like it's all very well to go and sit aside from everything else from your calendar and go, I would love to achieve this year. But if you don't then take that, break it down, plan in the time, I honestly believe, and we speak to so many business owners here, and when you first look at somebody's calendar, if you ask them what are your key goals, and so often like a lot of similar things come up. It's like growing the business, it's writing a book, that comes up loads, right? And then if you look at the calendar coming up in the next weeks, next months, and you go, okay, when have you got that planned in? Oh, I haven't. Like it, when I'm talking about it now, it feels obvious. I've also been a complete culprit of it and never ever like dreamed all these goals, but never ever broke it down into the actions that had to go with it. So
Yeah.
ultimately, and while big goals, which we all love to, create and dream up, and then they can feel overwhelming, like at a really base level, if you just break it down to what do I need to do today and the next week, it like these weeks take care of themselves. So I talk about like basically winning the week 52 times a year, because and January the 1st, I just use because it's a common time, I guess, where people really sit back and reflect, because business owners, we actually get some, most of us get some time off. If we like look back at the beginning of the year, what we want to achieve, if we actually just start to go, well, this is great, but what does this look like now in the next 3 months, to plan some time on it every day? And even if it's like an hour or 90 minutes, and even if I don't progress it every day, if you don't have it in the diary, I'm sure there's a saying of like, what gets planned in gets done. I don't know who said that or whether it's even like the correct quote, but basically what gets
Good
planned
quote.
in, yeah, what gets planned in happens. And I just feel like a lot of us miss that. And it's just a real tweak to start to progress what you want to achieve in the year.
Yeah, really good point there. And I think what often happens in society is that we've got these, you follow all these YouTube stars and whatever else, and they're all saying, right, visualize this and think about this, and you're going to achieve your goals if you can manifest all this stuff. And the reality is it's half of it's just daydreaming, isn't it? And you're not
Yes,
actually going to get anywhere if you haven't actually got a plan, and then time to, not just a plan, but time to implement the plan. And
totally.
that set schedule. Otherwise, you're wasting your time, aren't you?
Yeah, no, totally. And it is all literally that. Like it's very well talking about doing things, but if you don't plan it in, and I think that coupled with understanding the power of what you do in an hour. So like not all hours are the same. So, I could spend an hour in my inbox and okay, I might have replied to a few people, filed some stuff, but I could have done that, or I could have spent an hour ringing people that I've met recently, or we've talked about doing work together, or like the 2 hours aren't the same. And I do feel like that coupled with planning the week, like that really understanding the value of what you're about to do in that next hour, and whether, oh, well, what did I do in the last hour? Well, I was in my inbox, I uploaded a few things to Zero, like understanding, being a bit more intentional about how we spend our time, and understanding that actually those things, okay, I did them, they do need to happen, but I didn't need to do them. And I could have taken that hour back and made it so much more meaningful. Do you know,
Yeah.
like, I feel like that is a real understanding. Because once I got into my head, it was a mentor of mine, Nigel Bottrell in the UK, like did this planning exercise with me probably like 10 years ago when I first joined EC. And it was about understanding what your hourly rate is. So, you know, like if I want to earn £1 million a year or 100,000 or 50,000, we've all got an hourly rate that if we were working 40 hours a week, let's say 48, 46 weeks of the year, it breaks down to an hourly rate. And whether that's £50, £100, 200, you know, the £1,000, once you kind of click that, well, actually, gosh, if I do want to earn £100,000, I need to at least be doing 50 or £100 an hour. So, oh gosh, I could have got somebody else to do that upload to zero or that inbox, do you know? And it's
Yeah.
like, it's planning the timing and connecting it really with like the value of what you could be doing in that hour. Not every hour is created the same.
Yeah, and that realization needs to happen for business owners, because sometimes you just think you're busy and you're being productive because you're busy, but it's, you know, you couldn't be further from the truth. Interestingly enough, that exercise you just talked about with Nigel Bottrell, we do a similar exercise actually in our program, but we just do it slightly differently, where we actually analyze what they're actually currently doing with their time. So we find that,
Yeah.
say someone's spending 25% of their time on emails and then 25% of their time doing zero, whatever else it is.
Yes.
When you then assign hourly rates to those tasks, you can almost predict what someone is actually currently earning based on where they're spending their time. So if they're doing
Oh,
the
wow.
£10 an hour tasks, and 50% of their time is on the £10 an hour tasks, and 50% of the time is on half the high value tasks, you can almost get a gauge on where they're at. It's quite scary how close you can get. So the reality is, if you want to be earning 150,000 a year or 250,000 a year, whatever it is, you've got to only be working on tasks that can earn you that £100 an hour, £150 an hour, whatever it's going to be. So I think that's a really important point. So where, just coming on to that then, if someone's done this exercise, they've had the light bulb moment, they realize I shouldn't be doing these small tasks. Some people still delay, don't they, in hiring? They've got
Yeah.
this panic about, you know, do I really want to hire someone? Sometimes there's misconceptions about hiring people, and is it really going to be that productive for them? What are what holds people back sometimes? Because you must speak to a lot of people that need a VA, then they hold back and they don't actually push the button on it. Why do people hold back?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some of the key things are that mantra, which I feel like most of us think at some point in our lives when we're stressed, and it's just quicker to do it myself. Like this saying that we have, and it is poor man's thinking based, like it is holding us back, and that like it's just quicker to do it myself is from it feels like it's going to be it's pain ultimately is the trigger, because it feels like, oh my gosh, well, I could just do it myself. Otherwise, I'm training, I'm teaching, I'm learning, you know, somebody else to do these things. It is definitely pain of how that is going to be getting somebody to support you. And that is why the world of virtual assistants, you know, wherever they are in the world, is such a brilliant industry, because it is easy to get someone to support you that can go, Greg, don't worry about it. I can create the how to do it or the process, or you know, somebody that's intuitive and moves forward, not just, I always talk about the difference between a PA and an admin person, because there's a big difference. You know, the admin will go, Greg, show me exactly how to do this. A PA will go, no problem, hand it over. I'll figure it out. So
Yeah.
just to say, it is very possible out there, no matter where you are, to find somebody that can go, don't worry, I'll figure it out, which, you know, is like music to everybody's ears as a business owner. But certainly the pain of that, I know, is I haven't got enough time as it is, but it's definitely solvable. And the other bit, I think, is people connecting that their hourly rate, what it's worth, and just not fully following through on the maths around. Because I've had lots of people say to me, oh, you know, my business maybe hasn't been going too long, or revenue's low. Like, how do I know everybody says your first hire should be an assistant, like somebody, but how and when do I make that decision? And honestly, as long as you're committed to winning the week and focusing on the high value stuff that will move you forwards, I would say the sooner the better, because it is literally like you've just nailed it in that analysis where you said of actually the more time somebody spends on the lower value, you can see they're earning less. Like the data will be there to show that, okay, it might feel a bit painful to begin with, but at most, and with virtual assistants, you can say, okay, well, I'll commit to 5 hours a month, 10 hours a month. Like you can start to scale up that support to literally go, okay, well, I've just in a time audit realized I've spent 10 hours on my inbox last week, 5 hours on like stuff other people can do. And even just going, right, an hour a day of it, I'm going to commit to getting a virtual assistant to take that off me. And even though it might feel painful, like not painful financially, but I guess it might feel uncertain. Oh, well, I could have saved that money. For me, as long as you go, right, well, I'm going to commit to 10 hours or 20 hours a month of a virtual assistant. This is what I'm going to give them. But in that time, I am going to commit to doing like whether it's creating a podcast and it's going to show you as the expert in your industry, or whether it's going to more networking events or hanging around in places where you get work, or those things that then start to bring in only you can do, the relationships, the creation of, I don't know, content, or like if you commit to going, well, it's then like a really easy decision to say, well, I'm going to get this time back, but this is what I'm going to do with it. Otherwise, you will go into the week or the month like, well, what should I do? It's like just going into it completely. It then starts to feel overwhelming because you feel like, oh, well, I need to make money to pay for that. Just make a pre-plan and go into it with the plan.
Yeah, that's right. You've got to trust yourself, haven't you, and back yourself that actually you're going to, well, I mean, you've got to need to be disciplined too, but that it is going to pay off. I think that's the worry, isn't it? People think, is it really going to pay off for me? Because some people, I guess, will look at these tasks like the emails and the Xero, and they think it only takes 5 minutes, like to do that little bit. Do I really need to do that? But it's the multiple 5 and 10 minutes, isn't it, that really add up. Hey, can I just ask a quick favor? We're constantly trying to bring on the best guests on this podcast so we can deliver as much value as possible. But the only way we can do that is if we get more subscribers, more likes, more comments, and more reviews. So subscribe to this channel and click notifications so you know every time we've got a new video coming up. Give us a review if you're getting any value from it, and give us a thumbs up. We'd really appreciate that. So, just let's talk about the time audit for a second, just to let people fully know what that is and how you do a time audit. How do you recommend people go about doing this, to be really honest about where time's going? Because I think sometimes the danger is that we just decide what the time audit is and we don't actually do it and think, I'll probably spend 10 minutes a day on emails, and that's not the reality, is it? So what should people be doing?
No, definitely. I do feel like most people would be shocked if they actually did one. I like to keep it simple. There are obviously zillions of softwares out there to use but I don't want to put barriers. And we have a productivity pad at MiPA, and it's either a PDF or a physical one that we can send out. You print the PDF, and literally, even just like 1 day's data is a really good starting point. And I still do it now. I'll have the pad at the side of me, and I'll just, from when I start to write down what I'm doing and when. Because I do feel like most of us just go through the day, reacting, clients call, an email comes in that you weren't expecting. And so for me, with our clients, I always recommend just keeping it simple with a time audit and just filling it in while you're at your desk, while you're at whatever you're doing, and in that way. And then we help our clients to understand as well what task can be done by other people easily, because some people might think, oh, well, there's only I can do that. And to be honest, like 80% of the time, there is a a video that can be created, a process behind it. It can be handed off. So I like to keep time audits really simple in terms of analysing where somebody's been spending their day. And just one other thing I would just say on that, getting, whether you commit to a virtual assistant for a small amount of time to begin with, and you have to like spend your time in a good place. The other key thing I feel like I just want people to remember about getting, whether it's an employed assistant or a virtual assistant, is it becomes so much easier to protect your time in the week as well. when you have somebody supporting you, even if it's just part-time or an hour a day, being able, if say an important email comes in, or somebody wants to pick your brains, or somebody wants to speak to you right now, having somebody, whoever that is, to be able to manage expectations, keep your time, the next 90 minutes protected, so you can just focus. Like, I use my own PA, Bex, for that so much. Like, she will know that after this podcast, let's say I've got 90 minutes in to get something done that I need to do. If something's coming into my email, I don't feel a need to keep flicking back, checking, because I know if there is something, she'll manage expectation or escalate it or forward it. And I do think that protection of time, because most of us, like, we want to help. We want to go, yeah, no problem, don't worry. And it doesn't serve us if we do that all the time. So protection of time is really important as well. And it can be difficult to do it when it's just you.
Yeah, that's right. Interestingly enough, so just to give a personal story, but I've always had assistants and admin that's helped me in all my businesses, but only recently have I actually got an executive assistant just for me. And it's really interesting the impact that's had on my time. I actually can't believe I didn't do it like 10 years ago. It's ridiculous. It's crazy, really. But
would you say that originally, like, now that you've got a full-time one, I feel like it can be easy for people to go, well, I don't have enough stuff. But actually, you get into a rhythm of delegation, don't you, and a habit.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You realize there's loads of stuff they can help you
Loads
with.
of stuff. In fact, there's too much stuff. which is great. It's almost like she needs an assistant now as well. But it's it's crazy that I held back on it for so long. And it was interesting, because actually when I was just writing the job description, you talk about that, have I got enough stuff? I was writing the job description and putting things in there that I thought, oh, let me fill out the time for her time by adding this, and let's add this and this. But actually, when it comes to doing it, she is highly efficient. But
Yeah.
when we actually sat down and started going through the job description, she didn't have time to do all the other bits because she's so busy dealing with my stuff, which just it escalates and takes a lot longer. But I've got so much time. It was crazy how much time it freed up. Just like not looking at emails and having to react to them and know that they're being filed away, and anything important you're going to discuss.
Yes.
And where it worked for me is that there was a book I read called Buy Back Your Time.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, Dan Martell. Awesome guy. I'm trying to get him on the podcast, but trying to get him onto the podcast is a nightmare.
It's brilliant.
But he's really good book. And that was the trigger actually that made me think, oh, I've got to get on myself. But what I just loved was his filing system of how to actually file out your emails and know that nothing's going to get missed, and there's certain emails that you have to deal with and only you can deal with. And it's just been a game changer for me. Like if anyone's listening to this and thinking, oh, do I have enough work for an executive assistant or a PA, then you will. Trust me, you will. And you won't believe how that helps you win your week, because I've got so much time now to focus on what I need to.
Totally. It is a muscle I feel like you need to use, delegation. It takes a bit of time in the beginning to, oh, could you do that? Because when you're business owners, you back yourself, you're so used to wearing all the hats, you're so used to just getting on with things and doing stuff you don't know how to do. So it is a muscle you need to like start to use and get into. But when you do, and you're like, actually, I can just keep throwing all this stuff, and if they can't, like, it'll come back. But you really, when you start to get into a flow and a rhythm of, even in your, I'm assuming, like, personally, I know I do with my assistant, whether it's like things I've forgotten to order or book or renewals or car at the garage, just like life admin. It's people might, and I've literally had people speak to me about, oh yeah, but like, I feel like that's really opulent, or would it, another thing that comes up is I feel bad giving that to my assistant. Like, is it an interesting task? But like, assistants love to support you. That is their bag. Like, just because it might not be your thing, like, they love it. So, and also on the lifestyle bit, that has been one of my biggest helps. Getting help in kind of just life gets me clearer headed in the day, because I know all of these other things. When you're a business owner, the two things are just kind of a flow of each other, aren't they? Work and home. And so getting support at home with stuff that needs to happen. Yeah. I really think that's kind of an underrated thing. If you getting help with admin, recurring stuff, things that need to get sorted, definitely do it.
Yeah, and that's it's so true. I mean, I'm just thinking now, like this week she was booking hotels for me. I mean, one thing that I'm really protective over is like if I'm going on holiday or a hotel or things like that, I spend hours like researching the best hotels. And but now it's like, look, I want no less than 4.5 star rating on TripAdvisor. It's got to
Yeah.
be this sort of price range. And I'll just get a little short list of 5 top hotels and what they've got. And now I'll just go, yeah, that one there, just book that. And I haven't spent, it's taken me a thing that would normally take me half a day to do. It's now taken me 5 minutes because all that sort of legwork is done really. And it's actually good for me to delegate that sort of stuff and not being so obsessed over it, getting
Totally.
the perfect place. So I'm completely with you on it not just being about business, but also about your personal life too, for
Yeah.
sure. But what we've really touched on here, just to clarify this for anyone listening, we are talking about a difference here between a PA or an executive assistant and an admin or virtual assistant. They are two different roles, aren't they? And I think we
Yeah.
just need to clarify that what is the executive assistant or PA's role? What is their number one aim?
And just to like an executive assistant can be virtual as well, like that, you
Yeah,
can get
sure.
someone that's just that is possible too. For me, an executive assistant is your right arm. It's so like everybody talks about getting the implementer in your business, like in traction, like Daniel talks about the visionary and a really good executive assistant can be that. And I'm not saying that they need to be an ops manager but you can give them ideas, kernels of things, like the outline around, I want to do this, but I don't know how. Can you start to look and research and that for
Yeah.
me, I guess the simplest is that an executive assistant does not need A to Z outlining. You can say, well, I know A, F, and H, but like this is, and they will go, okay, no problem. Well, let me go and figure out, and and start to move
Yeah.
stuff forwards. And it's a really great feeling for me, an executive assistant, when they move things forwards that you don't need to, and that they are for me mini project managers, and they're people you can trust to get shit done.
100%. Yeah. I mean, some of the top qualities, they've got to be proactive, haven't they?
Yeah.
That's really crucial that they can do it without you asking. And for me, I think it's the protection of my time. That's probably
Yes.
the big thing is that they're constantly looking, thinking, no, I'm not going to put that meeting in because that is what you've scheduled. That's your time for business development. So that's going to be left for you to do that. So this, I guess this is where it really ties back into winning the week, doesn't it? That getting
It
that
does.
good executive assistant or is going to be the person that helps you protect your week so it doesn't get taken up with all that mundane stuff.
Most definitely. And just a couple of things on that then. It's like, number one, you're totally right in that your week's planned out. Let's say you've got a perfect week planned out. Your assistant should be the gatekeeper and in charge of that and pushing back and going, Greg, this is going to be too much on this day. Like, you're not going to get it. Like, having that kind of frank conversation, sharing with them your goals is really important. Do you know like what the priorities are? Because that will help them to understand, if somebody wants to pick your brains about something, or if somebody, a new client wants a discovery call, like just making just starting to understand, well, okay, Greg's not available for 8 weeks, but if you want to pick his brains, we can book something. Like just having that kind of understanding. And definitely winning the week. So I have got like a download. I can pop you the link across just in case it's helpful for anyone in what crafting a great week's looks like. Because for me, for it to work really well with your assistant, she needs to have an understanding of what winning the week looks like. So like personally, my Mondays are all about internal team meetings. I get them all kind of done on a Monday. I speak with the different like department heads. I help them solve problems. I know what any issues are. And I leave Monday going, okay, I know internally is sorted. Like that's all of my time on a Monday. And then Tuesday, I move on to a marketing day. And like Tuesday, so I start to split up what Wednesdays I like to keep totally free of meetings. So I've got time to strategize, plan things I want to do, work on my book, all that kind of thing. But ultimately, that that might not be right for everybody, but planning out what a really great win in the week looks like and where your focus time would be. Even if it's like, do you know what? I am not the best in the morning, so my focus time should be 3:30 till 5. I want 90 minutes there every day. Having like a semblance of what a really great week looks like, or, I always take my kids to football Wednesday afternoon. Like, we need to share that with the people that are helping us so they can go, right, I know what looks good for Greg. Let's make this happen.
Yeah, and it almost forces you to do that perfect week, doesn't it? If you've got someone there that's responsible to help you protect your time and they want to know what you're doing, I think it does
Yeah,
force that action to happen, doesn't it? You think, actually, I've got to map this out because my executive
definitely.
assistant wants to know what I'm doing. So I've got to
Definitely.
do
And
that. So
I can be the worst for somebody going, oh, I'd love to chat to you about it. So go, oh yeah, no problem. Oh, tomorrow. Like, it's so easy to just want to go, oh yeah, no problem. But my PA will go, oh, that's not what we agreed. Like, well, meetings are Tuesdays and Thursdays afternoon. I've now got next Thursday. Like, they will stick to the plan and protect you. So as long as
yeah,
you share what a good week looks like, and also giving them the ownership, like, you need to give them the ownership and go to, like, this is what I want, like, happy for you to make it happen.
yeah, 100%. Yeah. So you've obviously worked with a lot of businesses, Emma. So have you got any examples of maybe business owners that were stressed out and had no time, and then they've come to my PA and got themselves some assistance and are now smashing it? Any good stories that we can take away from this?
I mean, yeah, well, I've been over 16 years. There's been a lot of clients. So, yeah, no, there has been lots of success stories. I think, okay, some specifics then. There's a guy called Chris who is in Manchester, has an insolvency practice, and his business did grow a lot over the past few years. There's lots of things happened with COVID and what, but so basically he was doing everything himself in the very beginning. And I think like some of the key things is when you get, so his PA, Jessica, in my business, ultimately was supporting him nearly full time. And the key things that come out of it are, one, people are shocked at the impact when they find somebody good. Do you know,
Yeah.
like, that's number one. And basically for him, the transition was from him doing everything from his YouTube channel, his social media posts, doing the, like, submitting the cases, chasing the cases, one by one, we extricated from him. Okay, so phone calls is always first, like he was answering the phone himself. Phone calls is first, let's get that boshed. Number two, operationally, when anything that is process driven, we take second because it's an easy peel off from him. So that was like submitting cases, chasing them up, and we can easily put a process behind it. Number three starts to be more around him saying, okay, well, I need to create some content. I need to create some social posts, and then planning that more like focus time into his calendar. So it's like inbound communication first, process driven stuff second, third, starting to look at what he is best at doing, which was his face on the video, and making sure that time gets planned in. Fourth then became his personal life, like as he was getting busier, like you just said about booking holidays, travel. And that is a really key point, because we never have a client that comes to us and we do everything in one go. It's just not, like you would with a member of a team. We start
Yeah.
to layer it on bit by bit, and it's much more manageable. That you need to build up confidence, a relationship, and and delegation when you're not used to it. But I think, like, this is an ongoing relationship with him, and ultimately he has decided that rather than have its employed team member, he would rather have it outsourced running. But I think like the biggest thing is the wow, when you get somebody really good to support you, the impact of that, like that is definitely the thing that puts a smile on our face, and the key to, yeah, just really, for me, I talk about focus on the fun stuff, which is ultimately enjoying the things in your business. And I do think when you get the right people around you to support you, like, I know business is hard, but business should also be enjoyable most of the time. Do you know what I mean? It shouldn't be 5 days a week of slog. And I do think getting the right support for you as the business owner has a massive impact on how much you do and can enjoy running your business.
Yeah, without a doubt. If you're not enjoying certain aspects of the business, then hand those aspects to someone else.
Yeah,
Let them
most
do it.
definitely.
But that's a really good point that you make there about how to step up the delegation, because what we don't want to be doing is just fire hosing someone with absolutely everything.
Yeah.
I think doing it slowly like that is a good way of doing it. And the more you start handing off, the more you'll realize you can hand off to others. You don't have to be doing everything in your business. So really useful points you've brought out there, Emma. Thanks for running through all of that. If someone wanted to talk to you potentially about handing some stuff off and getting, the perfect week organized, how could they, what could they do? Is there any handouts you've got or
Yeah,
anything, or how could they contact you?
definitely. I have got some really great resources on my own website, which I'm building out to help people win the week and find, time audits and really start to get into the week and make them really impactful. So my website is emmamills.co.uk. And if you put win the week on the end, that's where the resources will be to download. Yeah, that's the best place to find me.
Perfect. We'll stick that in the show notes. So really appreciate your time coming on, Emma, and I wish you all the best with your business going forward.
Thanks, Greg.